Let me ask you the most basic question, which is how has your business changed as a result of this COVID-19 crisis? What are you seeing more of? What are you seeing less of? How have the patterns changed?
Well, thank you, David, and glad to be on your program. And what I'll say industry-wide, so from a whole macroeconomic standpoint, is obviously a lot more healthcare, PPE, and critical shipments like that, and I think you're seeing that all across the industry. And with businesses being closed and with people sheltering in place, you see more e-commerce, more residential deliveries across the industry too. So that would be the two biggest things. And the good thing about our flexible global logistics network is it allows us to flex to meet the needs of governments or meet the needs of our customers. So it's interesting times, that's for sure, David.
Yeah, that's for sure for all of us, David. Let me pick up on what you just talked about, that flexible logistics, because you really have pushed hard on automation and bringing the computer, the digital age into your delivery system. Is this experience going to expedite that? Is that going to drive it even farther and faster than you were doing already?
Well, one, it makes us very thankful that we have invested in the automation and invested in our transformation initiatives, which were all focused about speed and focused about agility. And of course, with the situations we're facing now, that just stresses the importance. But even when this crisis is over, we're just living in in a time of great change. So we think we will continue to build upon that. So it's just more important now than ever, and I don't think see that diminishing once we get through this crisis.
On your business, give us a sense of what's going on with business to business as opposed to business to consumer. I'm assuming business to business is off somewhat. Business to consumer probably is up somewhat. Goodness knows that's our experience here up in Westchester. But does that affect your margins? Because I believe you have a higher margin, particularly in the small and medium-sized companies in the B2B as opposed to the B2C.
And David, that is because we have our earnings call coming up next week. I will be talking more in detail along those lines then. What I can tell you now, though, is from a macroeconomic or industry perspective, and that is that, with closures, there's less B2B, and with stay-at-home, there's more B2C. But I'll have more information to share about that when I get to the earnings call.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't want to get you in trouble with the SEC, David, whatever we do here. Final question on this particularly is, does your experience thus far, your experience with the UPS, does it tell you anything that would really be helpful to us about restarting the economy? What you've seen shut down, what you think might come back?
I do think we can add a lot to that story, and I'm proud to be a part of the Great American Economic Revival Group, one of them that the president is leading. And the thing that we have to offer is that since we have been declared a critical infrastructure business, we've been operating through the heroic efforts of our UPS drivers and loaders and pilots and mechanics throughout this crisis. And so we have learned a lot, and one of the things that I will be sharing with other businesses that have had to close down is what we have learned, what we see works, and what we would recommend they do and not do. So I do believe that we would add a lot of value to that discussion.
David, talk about those employees. What are you doing for them to try to keep them as safe as possible? What extraordinary lengths are you going to?
Okay, certainly. Well, in fact, my favorite subject is talking about our employees, especially right now. They're just an amazing group of people that realize that we're a critical business, and they have stepped up to the plate like I haven't seen. In fact, David, we have record service levels now, and I can go back 46 years, so I can't speak for the company history, but I can speak for a good portion of it. And but the first thing is all about the safety. We have to, if we want to be a critical business, and if we believe we've got to move healthcare supplies and stuff around the world, then we have to take care of our people. And things like And these are some just real important things. Emergency paid leave that was outside of our union contracts that we agreed to let our people know you don't need to come to work sick, that if you are feeling any problems, we can give you the paid leave. And enhanced cleaning of our buildings and our package cars and everything that people touch. Of course, following CDC guidelines and sanitizing supplies and masks. But one that was really important, you may have noticed it if we delivered to your house, is no longer drivers having to require signatures. And so that means this diet board, this computer is not being passed from hand to hand. And we have learned how to make non-contact deliveries. And those are things that have made the job much, much safer and is allowing us to continue to function, but is due to the amazing efforts of our people.
We certainly have seen that at our house, I'll tell you that. David, you were going through a transition before all this crisis came up. That is to say, you have a new CEO coming in, I think June 1, and you're going to remain as executive chairman. Has this crisis and your response to it changed at all that transition? We've seen that at some other companies.
You know, it hasn't changed the timing. It's changed the process just a little bit. I mean, when we first started together, Carol and I, she was kind of shadowing. We were doing things together. Well, now we've been doing more virtual shadowing, right? And so that has changed a little bit. But we're still getting her out to meet our people. It's just through virtual means versus in person. But the great thing about this is she's been able to see firsthand how we're dealing with this crisis, and she will be off to a running start. And with the questions about what's the economy going to do in the remainder of the year and those kinds of situations, having someone like Carol Tomei's background and real emphasis on the financial side of it, and having lived through the Great Recession with her in her previous life, it just has convinced me more and more she's absolutely the right person at the right time. But the transition has been differently than what we planned, no doubt about it.